Good morning, podcasters. Today is Tuesday, July 7th, 2026, and today, downloads aren't the whole story anymore. Sam Sethi explains the new metrics, discovery strategies, and monetization opportunities indie podcasters should be paying attention to right now. So if you're listening live on Clubhouse, hit the share button, top right-hand side of the screen, and share it however Clubhouse lets you. And if you're catching us via podcast, YouTube, etc., please share this with a fellow podcaster. And now give us about 30 seconds, and we'll get things rolling. Thanks for being here. The Podcasting Morning Show is powered by Ironic Media, helping podcasters launch, polish, and grow great shows. And by Content Creators Accountant, helping creators build real business behind their content. Good morning again, Podcasting Morning Show. Thank you so much for being here. I am your host, Mark Ronick. Currently, on stage with me, we have my co-hosts, Ralph Estep, DR Fay, BC Babbles, and Sid Meadows. We also have Dan Schultz from the audience joining us on stage. And of course, we have our guest today, Sam Sethi, who Ralph is going to officially introduce to everybody. Go for it, Ralph. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Sam is one of the genuine originals in podcasting's tech movement. He's the founder and CEO of True Fans, a creator-first hosting and fan engagement platform built on podcasting 2.0. Now, I bet he'd say 3.0. And that's the idea that creators should own their audience and get paid directly by fans. He also co-hosts Pod News Weekly Review with James Cridlin. He's the chief evangelist of the Podcasting Standard Project and has a 30-year tech run that includes Microsoft, Netscape, and MicroStrategy. He's based in UK. That's why if you mentioned, he said he was at 1 o'clock there in the UK. That's where he is. And last time I was on the show, he made a promise. And today he's here to keep it. So Sam, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me back.
Great to have you, Sam. And I'm going to ask you, I should have noticed this before we started, if there's a way you can turn up your gain a little bit, your microphone. You sound a little quiet. So I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Make sure. Thank you.
I will turn that up for you. No problem at all.
I don't mind doing that when we're doing a show for podcasters about podcasting. I think these are important things to just leave in there, not edit it out, because this is what happens on a podcast. Might as well show all of it, warts and all, right? It's great to have you here, Sam. And yeah, last time you were here was April already, believe it or not. It's already been a few months since you were here. And I know one of the things you did was you offered a year subscription to True Fans to one of our listeners. It was Austin. And I guess it was a little delayed and you wanted to make good on it and talk about it here before we dive into the full conversation today.
Yeah, look, when you invited me on the show last time, I was keen to offer that out. And I thought we'd have that feature ready, in a matter of days after I was on the show. Sadly, it took a couple of weeks to get it right, test it, make sure it worked. We have done that. And now I'm here and I wanted to come back to make sure that I followed up on that promise. So yeah, I'll contact Austin after the show. We'll get him on to True Fans. We'll hand him over through the steps to get on. And yes, he'll get his year of free gifted hosting from True Fans.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, so we will make sure to reconnect the two of you so Austin can take advantage of TrueFans.fm. And one of the hosting sites we got to learn a lot about back in April. And I'm excited for Austin. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about it once he gets started with it. And Sam, one thing I want to again mention with the microphone situation, it feels like it might be coming through your computer.
Let me check. Hold on a sec.
Yeah, let's check that out before we go any further. Ralph, do you agree?
Yeah, I was going to ask him to tap on the microphone.
Yeah, to get that test. Now we can't hear you at all, sir. We still can't hear you.
I think he's going to leave Riverside and come back in.
Okay,
I think that's the issue.
That's the issue. Okay, so we will do that. And while we're doing that, let me just say a belated happy birthday to DR Fay. It was her birthday yesterday. DR, how did you celebrate that birthday?
Well, I did a lot of sleeping. And also, I am a new owner of a Ninja Creamy,
Oh, me
You
too.
can make your own ice cream and stuff. And so I'm trying to do the high protein, low cal, no sugar kind of. And I have all of this home brewed vanilla that I have.
That's right. You were
And
a fiend creating vanilla
That's right.
extract. Nice.
And so, yeah, lots of different flavors. So that's the way I spent my
Awesome.
birthday.
Yes. Amy got one of those for us for Amazon Prime Day when that was going on last week or whenever it was. And we've made mint chocolate chip ice cream, and I was hoping to make like a slushy slurpee kind of thing. It really came out more like sorbet with real watermelon. It was delicious.
That's watermelon lime is what I'm
That's
wanting
what we
to
did.
do.
I put lime
Oh,
juice
good.
in that. Yep, it was
Yeah.
delicious.
So I've done, of course, vanilla and key lime pie.
Oh, yeah, it's nice. We
Low
like,
sugar,
for example,
high protein.
we used maple syrup, which it's sugar in itself, but it's not,
I'm
that
using
cane
monk fruit.
processed sugar. Yeah, monk fruit's a great one. Okay, we're back. We're back with
Microphone
Sam.
check, Sam Sethi.
Here we go. That's
Ah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
it. That's much
Yep.
better.
good old
Great.
Riverside. Didn't put my mic. And
No
I should have
problem. No problem. Well, we're glad to have you officially back here now. And Ralph, I'll let you ask the first question.
Yeah, that's great. So last time you were here, we talked a lot about hosting, Sam.
checked.
We talked about HLS, real plays, video, and AI today. I want to zoom out a bit. When you look at what's happening now across podcasting, especially around measurement, discovery, monetization, and that direct fan relationship, what should indie podcasters be paying attention to first?
Very simple. The number of plays. It's play. That's the only metric that you really need to be thinking about because, as we said last time, the download has been historically a great metric, right? I'm not knocking it. It was all that was available. The host could only give you a download number, and that's the only number you could take to the party and tell advertisers about or tell other people about where your podcast was doing. But since then, with streaming content that we can do now through HLS and other mechanisms, we now know your play count across all apps. And that really is what advertisers want. They want to know that the actual podcast was played. You want to know that people were actually listening. And really, the other part of that then is the consumption time, the listen time. How long did somebody play my podcast? Was it 1 minute? Was it 100 minutes? And the last part of that is a percentage count as well. And I say that because James Cridland has a daily podcast, 3 minutes long. Now, if you said, James, you had 1,000 plays and it was only 2 minutes each play, that sounds really bad. But if you said that was 80% every day, that makes sense, right? So you have to have all three metrics: play time, listen time, and percent completed.
And that scares a lot of independent podcasters. I know it does me when I look at those stats and I see that completion time and I go, ouch.
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of podcasters are overreacting to that right now? Or do you think they're underestimating the value of that, Sam?
I think, we can go around with blinkers on and pretend that our numbers, our metrics are really fantastic and give big numbers out. Or we can be realistic and say, look, these are the real numbers. And with the consumption data, you can now see charts that will tell you, maybe at 3 minutes, I talked about something that wasn't what my audience wanted. They skipped forward. Okay. Note to self, do not talk about that again. Right. So it's interactive feedback based on actual real users, your fans telling you, this isn't for me. I love your podcast, but this section wasn't right. So I skipped it. This section was amazing. And this is the peak that we want. In fact, what's really nice about the consumption chart data is you can then take the clip from the peak of your consumption chart and put that out as a clip to your social media, because that's clearly what all the people listening to that episode found most interesting. And that's probably what's going to bring other people back to your show for the, oh, wow, that really sounds cool. I must listen to the rest of the show. So I think consumption data and being able to see it visually as well as a metric number, I think is very important.
I want to play off of that question Ralph just asked and maybe make it a little more broad in the sense that, what do you think that podcasters are overreacting to right now? And what do you think maybe they're underestimating?
They're overreacting to the download number being removed as a metric. If you had, let's say, 1,000 downloads and now you've only got 300 plays, you feel like, oh, that doesn't sound so good, right? So I get it. We all have to reset and recalibrate our numbers again. And if I then say in the future, what was your play count? And you tell me yours and I tell you mine, that's fine. We can then have a like-to-like metric. But if we're measuring downloads to plays and the numbers are out of alignment, then of course that's going to sound awful for one party.
Yep, I hear you. And Sam, you've been a part of ongoing conversations around different things like measurement and the listen time and the watch time, like you've been talking about, and the limits of downloads. Pod News Weekly Review recently, I think last month, you did an episode on metrics, measurement, and money for indie podcasters and nonprofits. So a lot of podcasters still live and die by the downloads, but now we're hearing, like you're talking about, hold on, let me clear my throat. You're talking about more plays, the listen time, the watch time, deeper engagement. For a smaller creator, what should they actually be looking at week to week?
So maybe their number of new fans that are joining them, the amount of data that is actually being consumed within the show. So it's a really good indicator. If your show's 1 hour long, let's take that as a standard metric, 60 minutes, but 80% of your user base is dropping off at half an hour. Maybe your show shouldn't be 60 minutes, or you have to change up the content. I think the more we give people data that they can then transparently look at, rather than just have this one hysteric, download number, I think people can then start to change the style of their show, maybe look at the way that the show fits the audience. Yeah, I think interactivity, feedback, all of those things are what fans will give you. And then if you've got the data to look at from what they give you, you should be able to change your show.
Yeah.
Now, Sam, is True Fans leaning into the 30-second play, or are you still living in the 1-minute play?
No, we've adapted that now to 30 seconds across the board. We think, although I don't agree with it, I really don't agree with it. I think it's a spurious number. 30 seconds is not an indicator of a play. It shouldn't be. It could be somebody who by mistake has let the podcast skip in a playlist onto the next one. That shouldn't be counted. I'll give you an example. We do not allow you to rate or review a podcast episode blindly. Now, Apple will let you not listen to the podcast. You can go to Apple Podcasts and put a review in now. I love this show, 5 stars. I hate this show, 1 star. But I never listened to the show. Well, why are you allowed to do that? We say you have to listen to 10% of the show before you can actually make a review or rating. We would not like the 30-second count. And this goes back, Mark and Ralph, to the big number. The advertiser wants to be able to say, you know what? We had 1,000 plays. Well, 1,000 plays of 30 seconds is not actually really a true metric. That just means that we're inflating the numbers again, like we did with the download number, in order to make advertisers happy. What really should happen is we should set a metric of, I don't know, again, 10% might be a fair indicator that the show was actually listened to before it was abandoned, right? And that would be the play marker. But the industry will not do that because that's even smaller than the current play number. And people don't like small numbers, as we know.
Yeah, actually, and I'm curious. I was going to ask you, Sam, but I think you just revealed it. I was going to ask you you said 30 seconds shouldn't be counted as a play. Sounds like 10% is where you're leaning toward. That would be more like a play. I'm curious from our live audience right now, what do you think? What should a play be? Should it be 30 seconds? Should it be 10%? Should it be the majority of the episode? I know that there are some people out there that feel it's got to be at least 50% or more to really be a play. So what do you think it is? Share it in the chat. Let us know. Or if you want to come up on stage and talk about it, if you're listening on Clubhouse, you are more than welcome to do that too.
Mark, I'll jump in there. I actually think 10% is a very good number to use, actually, because the thing I like about that is it doesn't depend on the length of your episode. It's a consumption percentage, which I think is a lot easier to measure. Sam, from a practical standpoint, because you know the behind-the-scenes tech of this, is that something that the hosts could implement in an easy way to actually report that metric instead of some fantasy big numbers?
Yeah, I mean, it's a heartbeat. It's not long. We know in advance the length of the show. We know the 10% marker. We know if you go through that 10% marker and then literally record that as a play, right? That's so simple to do. Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is, if I'm an independent creator and I see real numbers, then that tells me something besides this fantasy land that so many of us live in. I hear what you're saying. Like, people like the big numbers. They want to see the big audience. And then they wonder why they're not monetizing their podcast. They wonder why they're not getting any feedback. And the reason they're not getting any of it is because nobody's listening, even though there might be 100 downloads, but nobody's paying attention to it. That's why I really love this, Sam. I think it's a really brilliant observation.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to Rez, who's just joined us on stage. I think he came up as I was asking about, what do you consider an actual play? What should that be? Rez, did you have an opinion on that?
Mark, are you talking about the samples that you play?
Well, I'm talking about basically right now, a play on most platforms is considered 30 seconds. That's how it's marked as a play. So the question, are you on board with that, or do you think it should be something else?
Absolutely 30 seconds, because I've noticed, like, you're talking about like plays on Instagram.
I'm talking about plays on like Spotify, Apple, etc.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not talking about social media.
Oh, I don't know about that. No comments.
No comment. Okay. DR, you had a question before. Did that go away?
Well, I didn't want to venture too far from the subject matter, but the word feedback and engagement has been brought up. And I have always had this question. And Sam, it might get too technical. So if it does, can you please explain it to me like I'm 5? So let's say I have an episode where there is a nice, healthy, respectful debate about AI, let's say. And at the end of the show, I say, listen, listeners, I want to hear from you. Just go to the link in the show notes and let us know how you feel about this. Now, most hosts give their clients a web page where their podcast lives on, right?
Correct.
Okay. So why can't they make that where people can engage, where listeners can engage, where the ratings can happen? It seems like such a logical thing to me, but yet no one Spotify just came out with it, but I've had this question for the past 6 years. No one's doing it. Why is that?
Can I just say we are doing it, True Fans. We have been doing it since day one. So if you go to your True Fans page, because we don't have it as a podcast single page just showing you your episodes, we have multiple tabs on that page, and one of those is reviews and ratings. One of those is what we call co-chat and co-listen and chat. So let me explain. So with the reviews and ratings, anyone can go to your podcast page, see the reviews and ratings that other people have left, filter them, sort them, look at them by individual episodes. We give an overall rating for the podcast. We give an overall rating for the individual show. You as a podcast creator in your admin dashboard also get the ability, if someone's left a spam comment, because we do get them, you can delete them. You can also flag. So me as a fellow fan, somebody might say something really rude and I think, well, that's flagged. I don't like that comment. That goes back to the creator. The creator can then make a judgment subjectively whether they want that comment visible or not on their podcast page. So we've done a lot of things that give you, the creator, the control over what reviews and ratings are appearing on your page. And again, you can do that very simply.
Was this something that was technically difficult? Is that why most hosts do not do this? It just seems like such a logical thing to me. I must be missing something. I don't know.
It's not difficult. I think it's the desire and want and need to do it. And I have that desire, want and need. I think it's important. So I have 3 pillars for True Fans: discovery, interactivity, and monetization. Discovery, how can I make your podcast more discoverable? SEO, yep. Sharing it to social media automatically, yep. Clips, yep. Again, there's lots and lots of things we can do. I mean, there's stuff we do in the actual metadata. I won't bore you, but that's what we do. The interactivity stuff, that's really important. So I talked about reviews and ratings, but co-listen and chat is the idea that you can have we're live right now, which is brilliant. And so fans can listen in and interact with Mark and you and everyone else here. But after the recording's done, actually, we as True Fans allow you to follow friends on True Fans. And then if they're listening to this show, I can see a notification. I could click on it and we can listen and chat in real time together after the show, talking about what was said on the show. That's another form of interactivity. And those things are important. So I think we're discovering that actually one-way broadcast podcasting is not the future of podcasting. It is a two-way relationship We talk about fandom. Well, let's make fandom then. I want to know what you think just as much as you want to know what I think.
Right.
It's important.
Right. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't want to veer too far off
No.
the subject of downloads, but I've always had this question.
Sam, I want to jump in there because John Jamingo in the audience put something in the chat. He said, when an episode is downloaded, can you tell how much of a downloaded episode is played? And I wasn't sure the answer to that. I know with HLS, it's pretty easy to do that because you're grabbing packets. But on the traditional download side, can you answer that question for John?
Yeah, forgetting streaming, which is what HLS does, if you go back to the old traditional download, the only people who could give you that metric were the apps, not the hosts.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the problem. The hosts knew how many podcast episodes they served, aka the download, but they had no knowledge of how much was consumed on the app. The only people who had that data, what we call first party data, was Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TrueFans, other apps, right? And we were keeping that information very private. Now, it was a competitive advantage. Spotify could go to advertisers and say, you know what, I can give you this data if you advertise with us, right? And we can give you real metrics. Your ad was played. That ad was played. The host would be like, oh, I have no idea. I can't tell you. We have nothing. I can tell you the location. I can tell you the downloads. I can tell you the IP address, but I have no more info. Now, with HLS, what it's given us is, as a host, all of that first-party data now we get, because what happens is the minute you click play and we start to stream 6-second packets, we know where you are within the podcast episode because you click stop. No more first-party data advantage for Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Now, as a host, we have exactly the same data and we don't have to ask their permission for it either.
And that's one of the things I know Adam Curry was talking about, paying the app providers, right? That's where you're going with that. Sam, do you want to talk a little bit about that for a second?
Yeah. So the relationship today is that the hosts make money, right? So you pay your X monthly payment to your host, great, $10.99, $20.99, whatever the amount is. So they are financially secure. But the app developers, we try and put in things like premium versions, right? But you really putting a square peg in a round hole. You're forcing a feature to be premium when actually it doesn't need to be premium, right? It really doesn't need to be premium. And so what we've done is we've made all the features free on TrueFans app. We decided, let's not play silly so-and-sos with people and get them to pay an extra few pennies. So now what Adam Curry is trying to say is that shouldn't we share some of the value that the hosts have with the apps, right? Let's get the ecosystem a little bit more balanced, because if without the apps, then what have we got left? We're just going to be left with Apple and Spotify, right? And so app developers are like, yeah, okay, how can we get a cut of this? Now, I talked about advertisers with programmable money, which is where, we are with the industry at the moment. I won't go into the technical details, but you've got the ability to do something called splits, which is the advertiser can say, I'm going to pay $14 CPM rate, right, for this ad. Right. All that money was currently going to a bit to the host and a bit to the creator. Well, now we can take that one step further and go bit to the host, bit to the creator, and bit to the app provider. Now, what's the app provider then got to do? Well, we just talked about first party data. Well, Adam wasn't aware that actually with HLS, the host can get that first party data. But what he's thinking is that apps can now start to share first-party data back with the host, your follower counts, your play count, your percentage completed. That's fine. I don't think it's needed now. We've moved on. Adam's not quite caught up, unfortunately, but he will. But at the end of the day, I think it's important. Now, I want to take that even one stage further. This is the craziness of where I am. I want to pay the listener. Now, this is madness, most people will say. But actually, if you think about it, who's the advertiser trying to reach? It's the listener. Well, if you can value my time and attention with some small micropayment, I will stay on and listen to your ad. And now I can actually give the advertiser back a metric that says, yeah, DR listened to 80% of the ad. Ralph listened to 10% of the ad. Mark listened to 60% of the ad. Well, guess what, Ralph? You're not getting a follow-up email. But DR and Mark, you're getting a follow-up email because you seem interested. And also for your time and attention, here's a few shekels, here's a few micropayments that you can go. Now, you can still skip forward. You can still say it's a rubbish ad and I'm moving on. But at least let's use programmable money to pay all the participants in the ecosystem, you know, the host, the app developer, the creator, and the listener, because that's when everyone makes value.
Love that. Thank you, Sam. So you mentioned a few minutes ago that discovery is one of TrueFan's pillars, right? I think you said one of three.
Mm-hmm.
Discovery keeps getting, in my opinion, either more complicated or more overwhelming for a lot of indie and DIY podcasters. We've got apps, we've got YouTube, social clips, newsletters, communities, recommendations, and now AI. So what does discovery actually require from indie podcasters now?
I have a line which is upload once, distribute everywhere, right? And that should be the job of the host, not the job of the creator. In the workflow, we are making too many steps for the creators right now. Okay, take your podcast, it's video. Right, now make an audio version of it, and now edit that one. Oh, and now find the clip. Now actually upload those clips to 15 different social endpoints. Poor creators are worn out. I mean, it's hard enough doing the prep, the actual editing of the audio or video, let alone distributing it to the social endpoints. So I think what we're seeing now, again, with the consumption data we talked about, being able to see a histogram of what was peak and what wasn't. So it's easy now using AI to get a clip for that peak in the histogram for the consumption data. Now in TrueFans, what we do is we give you as the creator the ability to put in what social endpoints you want us to distribute to. And at the same time, we also give you a threshold. We say, if this podcast was listened to more than 20%, then publish it. If it was listened to 10% or 5%, nobody's really listened to it, don't publish it. It doesn't seem to be popular. So our job as hosts have to be to make your life as creators as simple as possible. And that's why I say upload once and we will distribute everywhere. We will do it to the podcast directories, the apps, and also the social media endpoints.
Sam, when an indie podcaster says this, and you probably hear this all the time, I'm having a hard time getting discovered, where should they look first? Is it the way the show is positioned? Is it the packaging? Is it the platforms they're using? Or is it the way they're activating their existing audience? What do you think, Sam?
I think it starts weirdly with the cover art. I know this sounds, let me give you a really good example. I went to the Edinburgh Fringe last year with my wife, and it's a massive, big comedy festival in Edinburgh for the whole of the month. Now, you go to billboards. I didn't know any of the comedians there, but every billboard has 50 different shows that are on that day. And you're going, which one should I go to? I don't know. And it's that cover art for that comedy show that is attracting me to that show, right? In the same way, I go to Apple Podcasts, I go to Spotify, I go to the homepage of YouTube, whatever. And I don't know where to go. Okay, after I've found a couple of my favorite shows, that's fine. But if I'm discovering a new show, how do I discover it? So one of the things that, again, I think cover art is essential. Look at it very carefully. Look at other people in your segment that are successful. What can you glean from them? What are they doing that's making their podcast more discoverable? But there's also one thing I do want to cover, and this is quite advanced, so apologies, and I'll stop. I won't get technical. But programmable money, as I said, discovery, interactivity, and monetization are the critical part. Discoverability is you put out a trailer. Great. Now that's gone into the ether of the world. What if you put out a trailer with a payment? Hey, listen to my 3-minute trailer and I'll give you a bit of money. Your time and attention has value as a listener. Now you're competing with all these other trailers. You're competing with all these other new shows. Well, I'm adding a little sweetener to it. I'm giving you 100 sats or 50 cents or $1 or whatever the amount may be that I want to put in my marketing budget to promote my show. And now when you get that, you go, okay, I've got limited time. I'm going to go to the show that's paying me something. I don't know this show, but guess what? I'll give it more than 30 seconds. I might give it 10% and I'll listen to it. Okay, you've paid me a little bit of money for my time. I like your show. Click. Now I'm subscribing to it. Click. Now I'll listen to episode 1. Great. Now, as a creator, I can put incentives in as well. Maybe the first 10 people that come on my show, I'll say, I'll pay you if you put a comment out, or I'll pay you if you share my show with 10 of your friends. These are the sorts of things that we've built that give creators tools to allow to gamify the system so that the early adopters of their shows can help become the supporters and super fans which is what we want. The late players that come into our show, well, great. We don't have to pay them. They're coming anyway. But discovery is really essential. And there's many tools that you can do now. It's getting really clever in the space.
Thank you, Sam. And I think Dan over on the Clubhouse stage has a question or comment. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh my God. When you can gamify stuff and actually share the wealth with people as a marketer, that changes everything. It changes everything. That is all I've been trying to figure out how to do in a world that is not allowing you to do any of that. So you have to be extra creative. This is just like a killer. This one thing alone, Sam, is like seriously brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, so let's stay on this discovery topic for a second for the audio podcaster, right? Because the audio, and maybe they don't want to become a full-time video creator. What's, Sam, the minimum they should be doing to help people find the show? Because we know that video is so powerful for discovery of a podcast.
I think, again, you need to find where you think your audience is. It depends on your podcast, right? I mean, for me, I've got a technical podcast, so I'm on Mastodon. I've also got a business podcast, so I'm on LinkedIn. Do I really spend any time on X anymore? Not particularly. Do I spend any time on Threads or Blue Sky? No, not really. I don't find that I have an audience there. So creating content for those platforms doesn't seem logical. Yes, I might pick up one or two people from there, but it doesn't seem the right thing. So for audio players, that's a great way. One thing I did want to ask, we talked about a little bit about interactivity. One thing we've done, I'd love to get feedback because it's a feature we've just come out of left field. We are now going to allow fans to suggest topics for your podcast and vote them up. So now you can go onto one of the tabs and it says topic suggestion. You click on it, you type in the topic you might want that podcast to do in their next episode, and other fans can vote up or down those topics. And so then as a creator, I can look at it and go, oh yeah, my fan base wants me to talk about X, Y, and Z. And the most popular one was this. Okay, that's what we're going to do on the next show.
Sam, I want to come back to that. Remind me of that. But I want to mention something Jody Krangle on YouTube asked. And it's going back to what we were just talking about. She says, is that something they're offering now? Is there a website associated? Do you need to be hosted in their system to benefit, or is this something you can sign up for separately? Okay. And what she's talking about there is that shift away from advertising dollars to actually paying your listeners. Can you address that, Sam?
Yeah, so there's two steps to that. So truefans.fm is totally free. You pay nothing, nada. You join. If you are a podcast creator, you can find or search for your podcast and claim it. That is free. You then get access to the admin dashboard for your podcast, where you can then go and play in what we think of as a sandbox. We have all of the Podcasting 2.0 tags, the person tag, location tags, chapters, transcripts. Go and see how it will work. Now, when you're not hosted by us, that will only work on TrueFans, the app. Okay. So you can say, I want to turn on the location tag. I don't want it to be in Apple, Spotify, Fountain, Blueberry, but I want to see what it looks like. Okay. I'm going to type in where I live. That's where it appears in the app. Got it. Okay. Now I want to do all these other things. I want to play with payments. Okay. Turn on the monetization. I have a wallet given to me when I joined TrueFans. I can top it up with Apple or Google Pay. Very simple. I can play with dollars or pounds or euros, or I can play with Bitcoin sats. I choose the monetary system I want. Most people choose the currency they understand to begin with. So I'm going to put in $10 into my marketing budget, and I'm going to find my trailer, and I'm going to say, I'm going to pay you a penny a minute to listen to my podcast. And then you can see the effect. Did people then listen longer to your podcast trailer because you paid them, or they listened less? So you can play in the sandbox on TrueFans without actually paying any money or doing anything. Now, if you then want to switch to become hosted by us, thank you very much. Now what we'll do is we'll take the RSS feed that you've created in TrueFans, and we will distribute that to every app for you. So all of those features that you've turned on and played with in the sandbox now become available everywhere else. And so, yes, it's a two-step process. One is totally safe. If you don't like any of the things you've played with in our sandbox, we've got a single button that says revert back to original feed, and all of those features get turned off and you go back to your original feed. So try it, play with it. It's safe. And if you then want to move to hosting, we will then take all those changes you've made and we will distribute that on your behalf.
DR, you had a question. Go for it.
I do. And since we're talking about true fans, not only fans, true fans, I always feel compelled to say that. Since we're talking
what's your
about
browsing history, DR?
well, hello. Okay. We're talking about how innovative True Fans actually is. So if I were to move my podcast from, say, Libsyn to Captivate, I would be losing all those numbers that I have built up throughout the years on Libsyn.
Yeah.
Has True Fans been able to address this issue?
No, I won't say we have. And I think because we're moving from a download to a play count number anyway with streaming content, a lot of the old metrics aren't holding value anyway. That's not something we can do because the hosts, we talked about first party data from hosts not being shared. Exactly the same thing now. We're seeing host first party data of your previous downloads and the interactivity with your podcast not being shared. So when you do something called a redirect 301, which is basically telling your old host where to point your, people who might still have a link to your podcast to your new host, that's it. They don't give you any more data. They don't give you all the analytics. They don't do that. Some, I think, maybe even Buzzsprout might allow you to download it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's not a common thing. That data generally is lost.
Sam, one of the topics you suggested as I invited you on the show today was a thing called Superfeeds and creator portals. And I want to get into that, but I want to look at it through the lens of the audience. A lot of indie podcasters hear terms like portal and superfeed, and they immediately think, that sounds too technical for me. I can't handle that. So, Sam, what problem are superfeeds and creator portals trying to solve for regular, everyday podcasters?
Okay, let's start from the creator portal. The original role of RSS was on the slow dial-up internet, was to go out to weather apps and to sports apps and to e-commerce apps and pull the data into a creator portal. That was what Netscape, AOL, Yahoo, MSN did for us. We remember those portals, right? And that was because the internet was slow. It was better that they pulled it in the background and then aggregated it on a single page. Fast forward to today, we've got Supercast, Substack, Patreon. All these are portals. They are portals because they're not single function apps. Now, single function app is YouTube's a single function app, let's say, does video, well, maybe audio as well, but you could say Overcast is a single function app. It's an audio podcast app. Pocket Casts is a single function app. Whereas where I see it going now, because fans want this parasocial relationship with their creator, they want to know more than just the audio. So they want to read the blog. They want to know if you've got an event. They want to buy some merch from you. They might want to do other things, right? So now portals are the aggregation of all of those types of different content points that the fan can get from the creator. And so that's where I see on the app client side where it's going. And I think that's been proven now. You look at Patreon paid out $2 billion to creators. Supercast paid out $26 million to their top 10 creators. People are wanting to buy premium content, ad-free, pay their creators, support them, buy subscriptions, buy merch, go and see them live, all of those things. And it's not just, I want to listen to your podcast anymore. So that's the front end side. Well, RSS itself is broken down. Originally, RSS was about blogging, right? If we all remember the original format of blogging or news. And then Adam Curry, bless his socks, included the enclosure, and now we got podcasting. Well, actually, why don't we smash that together? Why don't we have one feed that includes your audio, video, your blog, maybe a list of all of the events that you're at, a list of all of the items you can buy. So now a super feed, basically from True Fans, has all of those elements in one single RSS feed that you can publish and host and then share with any other app. Now, what does that mean? It means that other apps now can read your RSS feed or your super feed and go, oh, wow, okay, there's a merch feed in here. Let me see. Oh, t-shirt, $10.99. Let me have a page for your merch. Oh, there's an event. Mark's doing an event. Brilliant. Let me go and buy tickets. How do I do that? Now I can create a ticket page. So you as a creator own your feed, you own your super feed, and you own your content. And that's critical. So within the super feed, we will have freemium content, events, blogs, ticketing, merch. And that's what a super feed is. And it's displayed in a creator portal. And that's what we're doing.
Sam, I want to follow up. Jody asked some more questions in the YouTube chat. And I want to follow up with that. And she says, is this something you'd consider offering through hosts? I'm with Captivate and have no intention of leaving anytime soon. And then she says, and I made a comment back. I said, it sounds to me like what Sam is offering is basically what I would do is I went to buy advertising from an app. And she says, well, yes, but what would that be within the ecosystem of true fans? Do you know what the numbers are of that system and how many people could potentially be reached? My experience with closed ecosystems isn't good. And she says, I don't disagree with his assessment of what the audience could potentially want, though not at all. So how do you respond to that, Sam?
Trying to understand the question again, Ralph.
I think what she's saying is she's content keeping her hosting with Captivate.
Yep.
What I think she's getting at, and I don't want to speak for Jody, but I think this is where she's going, is could she somehow advertise through her Captivate onto true fans? I think what I heard you say, Sam, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that, like, for example, I just bought an ad buy with player.fm and, they're showing me numbers. I'm assuming yours is working the same way. You're just, instead of buying an ad, you're basically paying people to listen to your show.
Yeah.
I think that's what she's saying. So, and then I guess the question she's asking is a fair question. She said, how much reach does true fans have? Well, how big is that ecosystem? I think that's what she's really getting at.
And Jody, I won't lie, we're not big yet. We're new. We're one of the players that are pushing the boundaries. This is all stuff that people haven't really woken up to yet. So the adoption curve isn't massive. But I think what I'm a firm believer in is we build, we show, and then people follow. And so stay with Captivate. Great host. Mark's a good friend of mine, the CEO. Love him dearly. And, with their features and functions, you can do dynamic ad insertions into your audio. You can buy ads. They don't do the micropayment stuff. They don't allow you to pay your listeners. They don't allow you to promote in that way. They don't allow you to have premium content in the same way we do. So there are horses for courses. I think what I would say is, as I said earlier, create your account on TrueFans. It's free. Go and play in the creator's admin dashboard. It costs you nothing. Turn on and turn off all the features and functions. See the effect of those in TrueFans, the app. Ask your listeners what they want that might be a feature or function that you can offer them. And then look at Captivate and say, hey, guys at Captivate, have you got this feature? I really like it. My audience likes it. And they can say, yeah, this is how you turn it on in Captivate. Or they go, no, and we won't have it for 6 months, or we may never have it. And then you can make that decision on your own. Yeah.
Sam, I have a follow-up to that because I'm the money guy on the show.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, if you're not charging them for hosting, where does Sam make money on this? I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure. So if I'm Jody, and Jody, by the way, put in the chat that that was where she was going with this. I just take a advertising budget. I go over to TrueFans. I add it to my advertising budget. And I do this. I'm assuming you're making a split on that or something, Sam?
Yeah.
Is that the way it works?
Yeah, we take 10% of the micropayments that you put out, and that's fair. I think we're giving you the platform, but we don't make a subscription-based charge. Now, if you come to host with us, then yes, we do charge you for hosting, but we also do one thing, which I mentioned last time. We give you a refund on the amount if you don't consume the full amount of your streaming data. So we have a half gigabyte streaming plan and 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabyte. And if you stream your podcast and fans only use a percentage of that streaming plan, then we look at how much was retained and we say, right, $15 was what you paid at the beginning of the month, but you've only consumed $8. There's your $7 back. And we think that's a fair model because that's actually value for value. You have paid up front, but that's what you consume that month. The rest of the money can go to your next month. Boom. And that's where we think it should go.
Sam, earlier you mentioned platforms like Patreon. That leads nicely into another topic you suggested that we dive into a little bit, which is premium content. And a lot of podcasters hear premium and then they think that they need a huge audience or a fancy membership program to do that. But for indie creators, I think there's a more practical question here. What's the real opportunity for premium content for smaller podcasters, and what are creators getting wrong about it?
Okay, so today, when we talk about premium, we mean paid. Let's be clear. You pay for an episode. The problem is the current grouping of apps haven't got that function. Now it's starting. Don't get me wrong. Let me try and explain. A year ago, we would have had to say to our fans, go to Patreon or go to Substack or go to Supercast, Memberful, create an account there, buy my premium content there, and then take the private feed URL and bring it back to the app that you like listening in and then consume it in there. And that private feed, by the way, is not secure. It could be shared with anyone. You could buy it once and give it to 100 people, right? Thankfully, most people don't do that, but it's totally insecure. So there's two problems in there. One is you're asking your audience to go somewhere else. Two, you're asking them to bring the content back to the app. That's a lot of friction. That is a lot of friction in the process. And we talked earlier about, there's enough work already about sharing clips and editing your podcast without asking your audience also to go and open up an account where you've got your premium content. So we've basically allowed users in TrueFans, creators in TrueFans, to have a single toggle, which says, this episode was free, toggle, this is how much I want to charge. And we encapsulate that audio or video. So for example, clever people might go, well, I'll just go and look at the RSS feed. I'll copy and paste the enclosure and guess what? I don't have to pay. You can't do that. If you copy and paste the enclosure when you've not paid, you'll just get silence. We do not allow it. And so what happens is you then have a payment confirmation. We then unencrypt that file and then you can listen to it. Can you copy that after? No, you still can't copy it because we do a check every time that you are the person who paid for it. So even if you shared that mark with Ralph, we'd go, Ralph, you don't have a token that says you paid for this. You can't listen to it. So premium content, first thing we wanted to do is make it simple enough in the actual creator dashboard for you to create premium content from freemium. So job done. Second, we wanted to make sure that, it couldn't be shared afterwards like a private feed. And third, we wanted to make sure if you wanted to, you can make a fixed period as well. You might say, actually, it's like a rental. I only want to make this premium for a week. And then after a week, make it free, right? Or make it for a month. So there's lots of things, but in that single super feed we talked about earlier, you would have freemium and premium content. That would then go to another third-party app. The technical term, and you can look it up, it's called 402. We've heard of 301, we've heard of all these different terms. These are HTTP codes. Sorry if anyone's sort of going, what's he talking about? I apologize. But if you go and look up what's HTTP 402, it's basically an error code that says this content has to be paid for before it can be viewed or listened to. And that's what we use. We use this HTTP capability to send a trigger request to a third-party app to say, actually, in the RSS feed, you've just found the premium content, so you now need to make that available. And there is an open standard. It's called L402 and F402. I will add one last thing. It came out only last week. You can look it up. It's called X402. Sorry, but I'll say it. It's called OpenUSD. There's a term called stablecoin. So up until now, for the last 3 years, we've tried to push a rock up a hill called Bitcoin and micropayments. And the adoption curve has been less than nothing practically. People have struggled to go, what's a wallet? How do I convert, dollars into Bitcoin? And then how much Bitcoin do I give? Am I about to give this person 1 million Bitcoins? I don't want to do it. It's too complex. So a couple of days ago, Stripe, PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, a bunch of US banks got together, 140 of them actually, financial institutions. It's called OpenUSD. You can look it up. And it's basically the way that we will create, I think, digital currency. And why it's nice is because your bank will give you a digital wallet. So actually moving money from your checking account to your digital account will be one click. And now I've got some money in my digital wallet, and that digital wallet will be available on e-commerce websites, TrueFans being one, but other websites, right? And now I can pay both in a local fiat currency, dollars, pounds, euros, or I can pay in a digital currency. And so micropayments, not just for podcasting, but it could be a micropayment for a like on Facebook, a micropayment for a like on X. These things will come. So the adoption of OpenUSD, which is a stable coin, I think is going to be something you'll hear a lot more in the next 6 to 12 months.
So, Sam, thank you for that. And whether it's your platform or another platform that allows you to charge for content, what would you say to podcasters who worries that charging for content will turn their audience away?
I think 3 years ago, I would have said to you, wow, people aren't ready to pay. The perception is podcasting is free, like radio. We don't pay for it, right? Now, people want quality. They don't want interruption from Blue Apron or Casper mattresses or what other ads that people can get. Often, unfortunately, independent podcast creators get the low-level advertising. They're not getting Nike and they're not getting Adidas and they're not getting BMW. So the interruptive nature of podcast advertising means that most people now, as I said earlier, are paying for premium content on Patreon, on Substack. And, if you look at yourself, I pay for Spotify Premium. I pay for YouTube. I don't see ads. Ads are interruptive for me. I'm fortunate enough to be able to pay, not to see ads. And if that means paying a little bit of micropayment or some dollars, pounds, cents to podcaster to get the ad-free version, well, great. I'm doing two things. One, I'm getting rid of the ads. And two, I'm supporting my favorite podcaster. So I think people have jumped over to the other side of the fence now and say, actually, you know what? My time and attention is valuable. I'm willing to support you as a podcaster, but I don't want those rubbish ads interrupting the conversation, the flow. And so I think we are seeing a change to more premium-based content rather than ad-supported.
I don't normally lose track of time, and I have today. I didn't realize we have only just a few minutes left. So I want to ask you a little bit, I guess this is probably a good place to land the plane here. If you were advising a DIY podcaster, an indie podcaster who's starting from scratch today with all these different things out there that's available to us, what would you tell them to build in that first 90 days?
I have an expression called go ugly early, which is don't procrastinate, right? Just do it, right? Sit down, think about, first of all, who's my audience for the content I wish to create? Have I got a deep interest in the content I'm creating? Because pod fade will come after the 7th or 8th episode when only your mum and your 3 mates are listening, right? You haven't got the discovery. So you go, am I wasting my time? So I think about who the audience is. Look at who your competitors may be in that segment. Then start to look at the things of the structure. So, how do I want to structure it? Okay, I don't know how to structure it. Well, listen to other podcasts that you like and see how they structure it. Start to build those building blocks for your podcast before you turn the mic on. Then turn the mic on, put out the episode, put out a trailer if you're not sure you want to put out an episode. Share it with as many friends as you got. Get honest feedback. That was amazing, Mark. That was rubbish, Sam. Whatever it may be. But don't hide behind it, right? We're not all Joe Rogan. And so answer at the end of the day is go ugly early. Just get out there. Every podcaster I know will tell you the first 5, 6, 7 episodes were a car crash. They were awful. The format was wrong. I sounded awful. I didn't get it right with my guest. All of those things will happen. You're just going to join the queue of everyone in the learning curve. But by episode 10, 12, 14, you're in your flow. You're finding an audience. Now you can start to do cleverer things, Okay, how can I make my show a little bit more zappier? How can I add some music to it? Maybe I can add a clip. Maybe I can share that. Don't bite off the elephant.
Sam, I'm already registering the name My Mom and My 3 Mates podcast. I'm loving that. That is brilliant. Go early and go ugly. And both of those, I've just bought the domains because, I'm going to give you proper credit, Sam, but those are brilliant observations.
Sam, this whole conversation's been really helpful because I think that the bigger message is that podcasting is becoming a lot more than publishing episodes. And we talked about that just recently, just last Thursday, we talked about podcast real estate, that it's more than just your podcast itself. And because it's becoming about better listener relationships, better signals, better ownership. smarter ways to create value and then hopefully monetize that value where you can. Where should people go if they want to learn more about what you're building, Sam?
Go to truefans.fm. Thanks, Mark. Have a play. Join. It's pain-free. You need any help? There's Claire Waite-Brown or myself. Ping me. Sam at Truefans, Claire at truefans.fm. We're open. Doors always open. I'm happy to spend time, energy, and effort guiding you through it. In terms of listening to more about the sort of madness that I put, well, join me on Pod News Weekly with James Cridland. We talk about this stuff every week. We're doing something called transcript annotations this week, which is completely mental. It's the open equivalent to Apple's timed links, if you're interested. So taking transcripts and finding books, places, and how do you do that and automate it? And again, ways of monetizing your transcript. So that's where you can find me most weeks talking about this sort of stuff. And yeah, LinkedIn or Mastodon. But yeah, you'll find me in those places.
Awesome. Sam, great to have you back after just a few months. Great conversation for sure. And we will always check out that Pod News podcast. Pod News, one of our favorite sources. And speaking of which, tomorrow is all about news in the podcasting space. Tomorrow's episodes are news and comment episodes. So if you're listening right now and want to be in the know, we will cover some stuff that we read over at Pod News and other sources as well. So come join us, get our thoughts and opinions on all the things happening around the world of podcasting. Again, thank you to Sam Sethi of TrueFans, truefans.fm. And until tomorrow, make it a great day, everybody. Take care.